Hello. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. Whatever time it is that you're watching this. I'm going to start a little bit early today. Sean needs to get into the office here. So, anyways, how was your week? How was your weekend? Did you do anything fun? We kind of rode around, hung out. Yeah. So, all right. What are you drinking today? I am drinking Stephen Smith tea. Yes, I still have those to get through. It's Jasmine Silvertip. So with organic stevia and organic honey, organic raw unfiltered honey. So yes, if you remember those from last week, or not last week, week before last, when we were talking about the honey. Anyways, today we are going to get more into like the butter side of it. We talked about the cooking oils last week, the different oils. This week we're going to talk more about like the butter and different types of butters. So to begin with, there's really no solid proof or studies that say any of what we're talking about will cause cancer or increase your risk of cancer. There have been some studies that have been observational, or not a solid outcome to say for sure. So some of it has been more like some will say it does and some will say it doesn't. So there's no proof or anything like that to for sure say that butter or anything that we talk about is an increased risk for cancer. Now, some stuff we're going to talk about is processed. You want to stay as far away from processed as you can. So keep that in mind. A lot of the stuff that we talk about will be very similar to some of the things we talked about the past few videos. So get started. Butter. Let's talk about butter. So what do you want to look for when you're buying butter, right? Butter fat content. So the higher the butter fat percentages, especially in European style butter, lead to a richer flavor and creamier texture. So in the US, butter must have at least an 80% butter fat content, while in Europe, it has to have at least 82%, a minimum of 82% of butter fat. The ingredients, a simple ingredient list is best. As we've said this over and over with many different things, and you'll hear that a lot throughout this video, a simple ingredient list is best. Because you don't want all those additives in your food, right? So look for butter that contains only cream or cream and salt. Avoid products with added oils, artificial flavors, or preservatives. You have salted versus unsalted. Unsalted butter gives you complete control over the salt intake in cooking and baking, while salted butter has salt added for flavor and longer shelf life. Quality and origin. Look for terms like grass-fed, organic, or cultured for higher quality butter flavor and nutrient density. There's that word organic again, right? All right. Flavor and texture. So good butter should have a fresh, creamy flavor and a smooth texture to it. The color can vary, but a pleasing pale yellow is often a good sign. Brand and price. While not always the case, a higher price in a branded product can indicate a higher quality made with more care. one thing that Sean and I usually use butter-wise is Vital Farms. So this is what it looks like. It's one of the, it's a really prominent. You can definitely catch your eye. It's 90% grass-fed, pasture-raised, family farms. We use the salted butter because I like flavoring, seasoning. Yes, I'm from the South, so we season everything and salt everything. So I did put that link in there. It doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't something out there better for you. That's just what we utilize. Different thing. I like to give you different options, especially like what we utilize in a sense, because we've done a lot of research. And sometimes it's just easy, even if you just want to get started. And then instead of having to do the research on other things, just to get you started, and then you can kind of research what you like and find something else that may work better for you. So yes, but with that, this is also a good transition to into Amish butter. So what is Amish butter? Amish style butter is churned cream with a higher dairy fat content than American butter. Store-bought, it's made by machines, but is still the slow churning process, like a butter churn. It minimizes air in the finished product and avoids breaking down butter fats. Its rolled shape is actually based on the traditional Amish techniques. So also keep in mind, if you live near an Amish community, you may be able to purchase authentic handmade Amish butter. So the store-bought butter isn't necessarily handmade. You have to kind of live near an Amish community, or even near, not necessarily just a community. So even out and about, I say out and about, like when Amish people have moved out of their community, they'll still make handmade butter and sell like at farmers markets or roadsides. We'll get in roadsides as well. But still, if you are shopping at a roadside stand, farmers market, or health food store in Amish country, don't assume that the product labeled as Amish butter are embezzled with the horse-drawn carriage or horse-drawn buggy on the label is handmade by the Amish. It might be made with milk from Amish farmers or come from Lancaster County dairies. So just because it has it on there doesn't necessarily mean it's handmade. Now, I will say when we lived in Charlotte, or I was raised in Charlotte, my parents lived in Charlotte. My mother's side of the family lived in Morganton, North Carolina, which is like in the foothills of the mountains, so about 45 minutes down from Asheville. But on the way up, we would always stop by this roadside stand. And the guy actually had Amish butter, real handmade Amish butter. There was a lady around there that lived near there that made the Amish butter. No, it wasn't in like rolled or anything. It was just like a square shape, but like it was literally like square shape and in plastic. And let me tell you, my first time I ever had that, I was older. The first time I ever had that butter, I got mad at my parents and told me that they were keeping the good stuff from me. Because growing up in the South, we were always Betty Crocker butter. But they were keeping the good stuff from me. That's also why I like the Vital Farms butter. It's the closest thing I have tasted in store-bought butter to taste like that. Very similar to that homemade Amish butter. So yes, it's really good. So yes. Anyways, and then apple butter, pumpkin butter. We'll get into those more when we start talking about jams, because they're not really butter per se. So yes, they're more like jams and spreads. So we'll talk about those when we'll get into that. All right. So Something else you can use other than butter, ghee. Ghee, ghee. Now, I've never heard of ghee until a few years ago when Sean started eating ghee or using ghee. He uses the butter now. He cooks everything, all his stuff in butter. It works better for him. Ghee is clarified butter made by simmering butter to evaporate water and separate the milk solid, resulting in a pure, rich butter fat with a nutty flavor and high smoke point. So, unlike butter, ghee contains no lactose or milk solids and is shelf stable for a long time. So, shelf stable, basically the same thing as shelf life. It lasts for a long time. So, it takes a while to expire. So if you don't use butter that often, but you use it to cook, or if you don't use it that often, and it would be easily expired, like a stick of butter or a tub of butter or whatever you're using, I would suggest you use ghee, if that makes sense. So then you definitely get your monies out of it. All right. So it's not necessarily healthier than butter, but it can be a better choice for those with lactose intolerance and for a higher heat cooking, right? So like if you're planning on doing some frying or something, and the butter, instead of using butter, you can use ghee. When I say fry, deep fry. That's what I was saying. Sorry, frying, deep frying. So also too, if you're lactose intolerant, it's definitely a better use for you than regular butter, but you still get the nutrients, right? All right. So what to look for when buying ghee? Look for a rich golden color, a nutty aroma, and smooth texture. Always check the ingredients list for purity. Ideally, just one ingredient, butter, milk. And look for certifications like organic or grass-fed. Proper packaging, such as a sealed glass jar, is also important for freshness and purity. It's also to protect from oxidation and contamination. So, especially if it's in plastic, you don't want the microplastics in it. But remember, we talked about the jar, especially with the oils last week. You want to make sure that you have that jar, that glass jar. So also too, high quality ghee is made from cow's milk, not vegetable oil, and is shelf stable and doesn't need to be refrigerated. I put a link in the description talking about high quality ghee and buying tips. So it also talks about how to find processed ghee, for lack of a better term. So when I say processed, it has added stuff in it, like the vegetable oils, and it's really not good for you. But yes, there's a link in there if that's something you're interested in. It gives you information on that and what to look for. More lowdown. All right. So we got that away. So a lot of people say that, you can use margarine, or what they're now calling modern margarine, for butter if you don't want to use butter. I'll give my opinion on that after I give you the information. So modern margarine is a processed food made from vegetable oils that is designed to resemble butter, but is now formulated to be trans fat free through methods like enterification instead of partial hydrogenation. Sorry if I mispronounced those. Common ingredients include vegetable oils, water, skim milk, salt, emulsifiers, preservatives, flavorings, colorants like beta-carotene, and added vitamins. So remember last week's video, the part 1 of cooking oils, when we talked about vegetables oils and how processed vegetable oil is and how it's not good for you because it's so processed? That's what they add in margarine. So margarine is not good for you because it's a highly processed food. Because, vegetable oils. If you didn't watch the first one, go back and watch it. I get more into that as well. So I would say no to margarine. If you can't do the butter for the milk, ghee. Okay? And we're going to give other options here too. So, yes. That's why I was like, you have plenty of options to figure out what works best for you. Okay? All right. Now, let's get into, I guess, what you would call animal fat. So, shortening. No, I take that back. Shortening is not an animal fat. I apologize. We're still on a margarine. Shortening is a fat usually made from vegetable oil that is solid at room temperature and used in baking to create a tender, flaky texture. Margarine can be considered a type of shortening because it's technically any fat that is solid at room temperature and used in baking. While both are made from vegetable oils, shortening is 100% fat, whereas margarine contains water and sometimes milk solids, and it's made to be a butter substitute. Shortening provides more richness and tenderness due to its higher fat concentration. Yeah, so it's made of vegetable oil. Stay away from shortening and margarine. That's just my advice. I would advise you because it's so heavily processed. It can't be organic. Anyways, so now we're getting into the animal fats, right? So lard is a semi-solid white fat made from rendered pork fat. It's used as a cooking fat for its ability to enhance flakiness in baked goods and its high smoke point for frying. So if you're going the vegan vegetarian route, you don't want to do lard. All right. Vegetarian, definitely do butter. Vegan, ghee, I think ghee may be a safe bet for you since it takes out the milk. If you're doing vegan. So, yeah. So what do you look for when buying lard? Okay, we're not going to get too deep into this because it kind of made me a little squeamish in a sense. But if you want to, definitely, look into lard and where it comes from and the different types of where it comes from. Just, I'm fair warning you. You can do it, but it's a warning, all right? So there are 3 types of lard. You have your rendered lard, which is the most common type. You have the leaf lard, which is a prized premium type, and you can look up why it is if you want to. And then you have the processed lard, which undergoes hydration for longer shelf life. When buying, you want to buy the leaf lard or back fat, which would be the rendered lard, the most common lard. You want to avoid the hydrogenated lard, which is the processed lard. Yeah, see that word processed again, which has been chemically altered to be shelf stable and not as good for you. See, adding chemicals in it. Why do you want to put chemicals in your body? Okay. Avoid lard with additives like BHA, and BHT, which are toxic benzene derivatives. Again, why do you want to put toxins in your bodies, chemicals in your bodies? Especially if you're going through chemo, you're already getting toxins in your body. You don't need to add more, okay? All right. So lard is like basically pork fat, okay? Tallow. You have tallow. Tallow is rendered animal fat, primarily from cattle or sheep, with various uses including cooking, skincare, such as moisturizer and soap making, and has a historical lubricant for machinery like steam engines. Very interesting. I guess that was before WD-40. It's also been used for candle making. That might have been before wax. I don't know. Anyways, interesting, right? Some may experience an allergic reaction to tallow products, and then it can also affect your natural pH. It can also affect your natural pH balance of the skin if it's used improperly. So what do you look for when buying tallow? Grass-fed and finished indicates the cattle had a more natural diet, often has a yellow to creamy color. It also has a higher nutrient content. You want to avoid low quality sources. So you want to look for animals raised without antibiotics or steroids, and consider the source, preferring products that came from their own animals, the farmer's own animals, rather than sourced from large producers. So you want to utilize like a regenerative farm, basically. So White Oak Pastures, I know I spoke about them a couple of episodes ago. White Oak Pastures is a regenerative farm where they use every aspect of the animal. So not to get gross or anything, but like the blood gets reused, their fat, their bones, everything of the animal is given back to like the earth. So kind of like basically the same thing that Indians did with their animal, when they hunted. So they also, White Oak Pastures also uses tallow, and they do tallow. You can get tallow products from them as well. They obviously use their own animals, 100% organic. They treat the animals with care. The animals get to live a long, happy life, etc. I will definitely put their website in the description on this video as well. I put it in another video, but I'll put it on this video too. But then you also want to make sure the tallow is low heat rendering, which helps retain the tallow's nutrients and can result in a more pleasant scent. So there we go again. When I talk about low heat, even all the way from like back in the honey, when you use high heat as a process, it takes away nutrients with what you're processing. Okay, so low heat. Make sure it's simple ingredients. A high quality tallow product should have a short ingredient list. So with no added chemicals, filters, synthetic fragrances, or preservatives. So you want to look for unrefined products, like for balms, products made with organic, cold pressed, and purified oils are best because they retain more of their natural nutrients. Color. Now this is interesting and something you should keep in mind. So the color can vary depending on the animal's diet. All right. So yellowish tallow is more like grass-fed, and then white tallow is more common from a grain-fed animal. And I say that to keep in mind. So if you're trying to do a grain-free diet, or if you're gluten deficiency, or allergic to gluten, then you want to stay away from the white tallow. You want to do the yellowish, because remember, what they ingest, you're ingesting as well. So yellowish is grass-fed, white is grain-fed, okay? Texture should be smooth, non-gritty. Scent should be very mild and clean smell, like a strong, unpleasant, or beefy odor can mean that can indicate it's rancid or wasn't rendered properly. All right. So avoid products that don't have an ingredient list. And if you consume low quality beef tallow, you're consuming the toxins the cattle were exposed to, including antibiotics and steroids, among others. For this reason, it's paramount to source high quality, grass-fed, pasteurized raised, antibiotic-free, organic, and ethically raised cattle whenever possible. Again, that's where White Oak Pastures come in, because it's all of that. And I'm not saying they're the only one. There are other ones out there, just, even if it's just to get you started, and then you can do more research if that's something you want to do, to see if it's something that you like. So, yes. And remember, you have to do what's best for you, okay? One thing may work for you, it might not work for someone else, or what works for someone else may not work for you. And so we're just here to provide the information into what to look for. It's up to you to figure out how you want to utilize that information. Okay? So please comment below what you use or what you're interested in using. If there's something you want to talk about or hear about, let me know. All right. And other than that, thank you for watching. Greatly appreciate it. Little pumpkin's passed out over there. He had his sound bathers earlier, and it knocks him out. I can't say anything when I run it. Like, sometimes I'll run it when we're napping, and it knocks me out, and I end up taking a longer nap than anticipated. Sound bath does work. If you haven't seen that video, go back and watch it. Sound healing and therapy. Yeah, I'll get you more into that. Anyways, until next week. I know diet's not everyone's cup of tea, but it is important, and I try to break it down and make it as simple and easy for you as possible in different aspects of the video. So if you're looking for something specific, it's easy for you to go back and find. So through the channel. All right. And I think later this week, I'm going to post a little video on, like, a small YouTube tutorial on how to do all this, how to do this stuff, find what you're looking for and everything. All right. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week under the willow tree. Take care, guys. Stay safe.